Sup guys, and welcome to the 19th tutorial in my PHP backend. So in the previous tutorials I showed you how you can use htaccess files in order to make pretty URLs. And the problem with the current implementation is how it exposes the structure of the application. So when we specify the exact controller name and the exact function name, that actually correspond to the kind of code we've implemented. And we don't want to expose the architecture of the application to the consumer of the API because they shouldn't be concerned about spelling and I don't know, anything in there, how it actually is built. So instead what we want to use is a transparent name. So for example, in this case, if we want to get the user 5 and all the subscriptions on user 5, we'll use it like this. So it doesn't expose what kind of controller we are calling. And also you can put variables in between the names, which we currently cannot in the current implementation because you got to put all the variables at the end of the URL, which is kind of sucky. So we want to deal with that. And in order to do it, I pre-built a simple router, and it from the outside it just exposes a public route function, and it wants the exploded parts. So if I go to my router, I put it in the namespace application. So it's the namespace app and then class router. And at the top here, I defined all the existing routes. Currently, they map to the same function on the color controller. And I'm just using like examples here in order to show you how variables can be mapped also. So we want to call something from the color controller, so color 5 and then by name. I don't know, it doesn't really make sense at the moment. We're just trying it out. And we also want to be able to use variables like this, like in the middle, and then it has the same base route, and it's just the end, and they should be able to determine which one of these should be called. So the way I've implemented it, the abstract way is like you have a variables array that's going to collect all the stuff that in curly braces, and I collect all of the routes and build a tree structure out of it. So for example, with the routes that I've defined here, it'll look like this. Let me see. This is one of my routes, and the other route is this one. So you can see they're almost the same, and I want to build a tree structure that's gonna look like this. And in the last part, there's two different routes. So the last two will be in the same hierarchy. And then what I want to do is I want to take the URL that I get. So I get the URL that looks like this. So the first thing that I do, I start at the route of the tree structure, and then I iterate until I find the key. And I do this recursively. I'm going to show you later. And then when I iterate and I find something that has curly braces, it's going to assume that it's a variable. So it's going to collect whatever is in here, so 22, and it's going to set it in the variables array, and they're getting accumulated as you iterate. And then it continues to the next one, and then it continues to the last one. So this won't match, but this will. And also, while it iterates over the tree table, it's going to collect the URL. So as soon as you hit the base case, like in the bottom of the tree, you're gonna have accumulated something that will be exactly like this, because you're always like collecting all of these as you go along down the tree. So when you hit the base case, you're gonna have a text string that I call accumulator, or ACC, that's going to be equal to this. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this variable as the key to the array. And if the key exists in the routes array, I'm gonna use all of this. So then I have available like color controller and get all colors, so I know which kind of functions I'm gonna call. And let's start by testing it out. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna var dump the all the variables so you can see what it is. So at first, I only have the URL that the client was gave the API. So let's see, one of the routes was color, and then one by red. So at first it just splits up everything in an array, color one by red. So this is the URL that we get. And then the tree that I built looks like this. So you can see it corresponds exactly to what I displayed previously. So color ID is nested down to name and gravy, which is on the same level. And then I accumulate the route key as I displayed previously. So it's going to look like this. And also you can see that I've accumulated the variables, so 1 and red, so 1 and red. And then I check if this key, does it exist on the routes array that I defined? Because if it don't, there is no such route. But if it do, we actually have the route. So let's display it. So you can see here I've managed to collect the routes from this one, and also I collected all the variables that the client gave to the API, so 1 and red. And now it's just a matter of calling this controller with this function, with those variables that we accumulated. So this is the abstract view of it, and in the next tutorial I'm going to show you how I implemented these functions, get route tree and get route. So thank you guys for watching, and I see you in the next tutorial.